Well, good morning, everybody, from, I would say, beautiful downtown Chagrin Falls today, but we have a rainy day. And I want to start out by apologizing for bumping it back 1 week, but I was up power for 4 days that week, and it was a little confusing week. And to do this right and to have fun, I wanted to bump it back 1 week. So thank you again for being a part of the fall webinar series. And the winter is going to start right after the holidays. But you should have seen in an email this week that there is a bonus webinar next week, a very popular webinar that I've done at the shows for the last several years. Where the heck do I begin? We've spent all year doing webinars talking about appliances, cabinetry, this and that. Now, all of a sudden, let's put it all together and say, well, where do I start? Like, who do I talk to? What do I look for? What kind of questions do I ask? Which I think would be really, really, really beneficial, as you guys get out, if you're doing a project over the next year, to really have that good mindset going into it. But today we're going to focus on something near and dear to my heart is designing and design only. What a lot of you probably do not know, and if you have a pencil out there, write this down. I have two companies. I started a company about a year and a half or 2 years ago, has its own website. It's about 80% complete, but it is a design only company called JH Design International. And the not the email, but the internet address for the company, the website is kitchen the letter E, designs is plural.com. So kitchenedesigns.com. So as you go in, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is going to be in that website. And then of course I always have the halldesignGroup.com for my other company. So what we're going to do today is we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about design only versus, a design build type of company, and then the benefits to it. And then I'm going to take the last part of the webinar and walk you through the design process. A lot of you have not seen it before, and if you've not had remodeling done, and now it's always going to be, everything that I do is going to be skewed towards because that's what I do, towards my companies. But there's probably a lot of parallels out there as you go out and venture out. But I'm going to be talking about mainly how I do it in the world of designing and things like that. So let's jump in. Okay, get this going. Okay, in this webinar, we're going to define what design only is. What is that? And I'm going to be giving a lot of examples because I would say right now in my business with my clients, about 30 to 40% of my clients are design only. So I'm going to be giving you examples and talking about those folks, why they came to me for design only, what's the benefit. And then we'll talk about the benefits of design only. We'll take a view of the design only process. That'll be fun for you guys. You're going to see what to expect out there. Where do you start? As far as in the design process, okay, and then answer questions. So let's define what design only is, okay? So design only is a service that offers, the biggest key, if you could say, just give me a one-word definition to design only, it's flexibility. It offers flexibility, to the client. And the nice thing about that is everything during the planning stages of the remodeling project, this opportunity allows a client to separate the design process from the labor process. Taking advantage of design only allows a client to engage the services of a professional whose specialty is design, a service not found with many contracting firms today. Okay, so what does that all mean? So let's say that, let me give you a couple examples of what I'm working on right now. I have a terrific couple out in Novelty, and he's a professional, she's a nurse, and he loves to dabble in things himself. And so they're remodeling their basement. But they don't want to have a remodeled basement without having a professional design. Like, where should the electrical go? How should the seating arrangement be set up? I have a pool table. How do I work that in, John, with seating and allowing clearances and all that? And being a do-it-yourselfer, here's the thing, there's a lot of the firms today that you would go to, unless you're going to commit to them doing the work, and unless you're going to commit, to buying their product, they don't want to talk to you. And that is where I really, over the years, have found that need through the classes that I taught and things like that. There's a lot of do-it-yourselfers also out there that don't have, more of the liberal budgets where, they say, you know what, we don't have the money for a $200,000 or $100,000 or an $80,000 kitchen. So we may need to go to stock cabinets and do it ourselves and do this and do that. But the problem over the years is that you're not going to be able to get good foundational professional help and assistance in your design. And that's why I opened the company Design Only. And it's going to give the flexibility. That does not mean that all of a sudden you have to be a do-it-yourselfer. No, not at all. But what it does, it gives the flexibility. Like when I do a design for somebody, we then print the design out and we can have multiple contractors look at it. We're not locked into that one company and say, this is our price, this is who does the work, take it or leave it to get our design. No, what we're doing is we're saying, you know what, let's get the design down, and then let's go and have that flexibility to buy the products we want, okay, to work with the people that we want. Another example, I'm going to meet a contractor. The contractor himself hired me to design his kitchen. He has his own cabinet maker, but he said, John, I really want your help. And I'm going there Wednesday to lay out the electrical with him. So he's got my professional design. I'm giving him the guidance for the electrician and everything. And he has his own cabinet maker. So all those things come into play, and I can go on and on and on about that. But, that's basically the difference what Design Only is. Okay. That doesn't mean it has to be the only word there is that you're not getting anything else. No, but it's a good starting point, and it's breaking design away from the contracting end. Okay, so benefits of Design Only. We talked about the flexibility. Here's a good one, and it goes both ways. I got to say, it goes both ways. We now have the opportunity to grow on each other. What does that mean? Okay, when you hire a designer, if it's not Design Only, let's say you're going to hire a firm, you're going to marry those people for the next 6 months. So you better have a good working relationship. And it goes both ways with me, with a client. I'm at the point in my career where I define success is not how much money's in the bank or the car I drive or anything else like that from a business standpoint. You know what it is? It's being able to pick and choose the people I want to work with. So that gives the flexibility to grow on each other. Here's a real big one too. It can be accomplished remotely. I'm working with a young couple, and yesterday, I was supposed to go out there 2 weeks ago, and they said because of COVID, is there a way that we can set up remotely? I have set my company up, JH Design International, to work with anybody around the world. I'm all set up for that. So that is a huge one. It's not just even today. I did that even before the COVID hit. But if I'm working with somebody down in Wichita, or if I'm working with somebody in Buffalo, or how about even Canton? I do a lot of Canton and Alliance and things like that, instead of making that trip, because one of the things with the Design Only, usually, and the way I work it, you get charged hourly. So if we can charge and save all that travel time, then there's a big savings there. Consulting services, huge. So let's say you are a do-it-yourselfer. Then you got the design, work with somebody yesterday, and all of a sudden they say to me, what about the colors, and what about this, and what about that? And I'm working with them on Design Only, and I could say, well, no, that's an issue you're going to have approached, because once I'm done with the design, I'm done. No, my answer is, you know what? Sure, I'll go shopping with you for appliances and tile and things like that. I have a lady right now that doesn't want to do her kitchen in Brecksville. And what she said to me, she said, John, can you just help me? Can I have a service where you can help me pick new cabinet hardware and a new backsplash? Would you go tile shopping with me? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. And my answer is, of course I will. you know? So that falls under the design only. Can be open to more open to contractors. This is what I was saying up front. This is really big. This is really big because if you go into a company, let's say you go into a company and you give them a retainer and to do the work, and then all of a sudden the price comes back 30% more. Now you've worked and you've invested all this time with the person that designing it. You have to use their products and you have to use their contractor. And what happens if it comes in 30% more than you can afford to spend? You know what? You've lost that retainer and you're screwed. And a lot of them won't even release the design, you know? That's where the design only up front gets really, really important because again, keeps you in control, keeps the flexibility alive, and gives you the opportunity that you can go and get multiple bids so you're not locked into one situation. Another really big one. These are all, you notice I'm saying these are all really big ones. This is a really, really big one. Okay, so let's say we're doing a job and I do design only and you have your own contractor and they're going to supply cabinetry for you. What I have found to be a real asset to these design only clients is to be their guardian angel and to do the checks and balances. Now, what does that mean? Basically, that means if a builder comes and says, give you a good example. What if a builder says, I want to put the floor down after the cabinets, or in another, it could be the reverse of that, depending on the situation, or I want to put the floor down, okay, before the cabinets go in. So let's say if it's a floating floor, wood floor, you do not want to put down before the cabinets because what happens is the floor needs to move, it needs to breathe, things like that. Well, it's easier for a contractor to put a floor down before the cabinets, then they don't have to cut around the cabinets and all that kind of stuff. So now all of a sudden, what do you know? Do any of you guys, probably none of you out there know that answer, you know? Well, if you had a guardian angel that can come back and say, no, this is the way it should be done, it adds a lot of intelligence. And that next one, thus education. So you can be educated, you know, and not feel that you're at the mercy of these people. So all of that really, really comes into play, you know, when you go into the design end of things. So it really, really, you know, adds as a nice touch on that. Okay. So that's the benefits of design only. Okay. So let's go to the next one. Okay. Let's go now to the process. I'm going to read through this and then we're going to get off of this and we're going to go into my command center and I'm going to show you a project from start to finish and what to expect and everything else as you go out there. Okay, so first the process. We have initial meeting. The initial meeting is, and then again, I can only tell you how I operate. I can't tell you how other people are operating and things like that. You have an initial meeting where I would come out. I personally do not charge for an initial meeting. I don't do that. I think it's unfair. But I would come out, I would introduce myself. Now, remember, we went back and talked a minute ago about virtual. That could be done by a GoToMeeting. There's a lot of different ways. The lady in Brecksville yesterday, she said to me, she said, can we do virtual because of the COVID situation? And they're in healthcare. I think they actually did it now that after I talked to them yesterday for my well-being as much as theirs, because they're being in the healthcare business. But we had a very, very, very nice initial meeting. In fact, they sent me an email afterwards hiring me, you know, so it can be done virtually. A lot of this can be done virtually. So you get that to get to know each other. And then sooner or later, though, I'm going to have to measure the space. Either I'm going to have to measure it or you're going to have to measure it, depending if we're doing it remotely or in person. So if it's in the Cleveland area, very easy. I would just come out and I would measure the space. And if it's done remotely, then I would show you how to measure and have you measure it. So that would be the second step. The third step is going to, and I'm going to go through these quickly because I'm going to walk through this process with you. The third one would be the wish list meeting. And then I'm going to talk about drawings, going to show you all the drawing options. Also going to talk about the renderings, optional renderings, how to meet with the contractors to review plans. The pricing process can start. That's what's nice about what I talked about, the optional, going to all these different optional contractors and things. And then we've talked about the optional consulting services. Okay. One thing I've said it several times. I don't know if anybody wants to chime in that I've delivered books or mailed books out for, but I have a design guide that I charge like 15 bucks. I'm actually just giving them away right now to help you guys through this COVID stuff. So if anybody has not been a part of getting this book and you're interested, just shoot me an email with an address or something, and I would be happy to get it out to you. Okay, so based on that, there is my company. There's the Kitchen E Designs. If anybody wants to get on that website. Here's the thing too. Get on, and again, you notice that people that have been following me along, this is not a solicitation for sales. Zero. I've not contacted any of you guys because I don't believe in that. I believe if you guys are interested, you'll contact me. But the Hall Design website has a ton of educational information in there, from my blogs to my newsletters. If anybody is not on my newsletter list, there'll be a newsletter going out now in the next 3 to 5 days. You know, so really utilize that. I have my old webinars on there that are recorded if you've missed one. You know, so there's so many opportunities for you guys on that. Okay, so let's get out of this. You bear with me 1 second while I set up and get rid of all this stuff here. Okay, so the first step, let's show you, how about we show you the kitchen we're going to work with? I don't know if we have any Strongsville people. By the way, you can ask questions too. You should be able to ask questions as you go down there, and then I can answer them. If I don't answer them, then shoot me an email afterwards. But this is a kitchen that, all the kitchens are really strong to my heart, but here's a kitchen that is in Strongsville. They actually heard me talk, and I had a ton of fun. I have a lot of fun on all my kitchens, but one of the interesting things though that we've talked about with like the 25 design trends was, here's the perfect example. We talked about luxury vinyl tile. I'm going to have an upcoming webinar on flooring, but they have ceramic tile running through this entire first floor pretty much, except for that dining room. And it's a major expense to tear that out. So that luxury vinyl tile, I know I'm sidetracking here for a second, but we went right over with a luxury vinyl tile, did not have the cost of the labor there. So to tear that out. Okay, so just give you an idea, there's a laundry room, powder room, you know. So basically, there's the kitchen. Okay, so that'll give you a feel. So that's what I was working with. You can see there's my tape measure and my pad and things like that when I was starting measuring. And also notice that I take pictures of other parts of the house, okay, you know, to get a feel. The biggest thing on this, so you know, the biggest thing that caught my eye, I love that piece of art right there. So I always had that in the back of my mind when I'm designing this. Okay, so initial meeting, I went out there, I measured. The next thing that happens, again, I can only tell you what I do, but is this right here, okay? This is the book, by the way. A lot of this is in that book that I'm offering to you guys. But we go through a wish list, okay? And you notice everything that can go into a kitchen we talk about. I'm going to tell you 2 little side stories. If you followed me, I may have told you these before, so bear with me. This is the key to designing. This is the key to hiring. I've had 2 people in the last week hire me for design only and say, you know, John, I'm going to spend all this money on a kitchen. I think the investment to do a design is going to be well worth it 10 times over. Let me tell you 2 little side stories, okay, that I'll always remember. I'm very family oriented. Sunday, no business, no anything, always with family. And I was, my daughter at that time, my youngest, around 9 or 10 years old. I'm in Brecksville. You know, so I do work all over Cleveland. It just happened, I keep mentioning Brecksville today, which I community I absolutely love. But if all of a sudden I'm throwing my daughter around in a pool and my sister-in-law's over on the side and she's with a friend, I'd never met her. And she pulls me over and says, John, do you have the name of a good electrician for my friend so-and-so? And I said, yeah, just call me, give me a call tomorrow and I'll be happy to give you the name. So I go and I turned to throw my daughter in the pool, and something told me, you know what, ask this lady this question, because I tend to be an S starter. I look at her and I said, what'd you think of the warming drawer? Did you end up with it? And you know her response to me is, excuse me, John, what are you talking? What's a warming drawer? You know, and then I explained it. I turned and I said, you know what? She's spending all that money on a kitchen and she has no idea what a warming drawer is. You know, that's why you hire designers. Could you see going to a party on New Year's Eve, not this year, maybe a year from now, and all of a sudden they have a warming drawer and you say, what the hell's that? And I didn't get it in my kitchen, you'd be pissed. The other story was one where I gave a talk at the NARI show, went back to my booth. A guy that was at the talk, probably about 65 years old, came storming at me. I mean, he was pissed. And I said, oh my God, did I say something or what? And he said, where the hell have you been? And I said, excuse me? He says, why didn't you advertise? How come I built a house and I had no idea who John Hall was? And I said, why are you so upset? He said, because my cabinets are going in to my new home on Monday, and that steam oven that you swear by, I had no idea, and my designer never told me about it. What do I do? Because I want that steam oven. I mean, what can I say? Again, this is why you go and invest the time with the designer. And you notice here, everything that goes into the kitchen, okay, you can just see here, just on and on, even go down to, okay, let's get down to the bottom. This is all, I'm just scrolling down through everything. You get down towards the bottom, look at this. Towel bars, do you want a towel bar in your kitchen? What about the TV? You know, we just talk about every single little thing, okay? Now, I also have a webinar as a side note about accessorizing the kitchen from this past year, and that's also recorded. So all that's in there. Okay, so that's the start of it. Now we've come out, we've gotten to know each other. We're not committed to anything. You know that worst case, things don't work out for you. You've got a beautiful design. You've got everything laid out. You can go on your own, do whatever you want. So we're in great shape. We're moving along. Okay, so what's the next thing? Next thing is I say goodbye. Okay. And let's get this going. Minimize this. Say goodbye, and then I go back to my place. Bear with me here, I'm trying to maximize this. There we go. Okay. This is my tool. This is my trade right here, my CAD program. Okay. So now we go, and with everything that they told me they wanted, we incorporated it. Okay. So all of a sudden you see here now, there's that laundry room. There's that powder room. Here's the kitchen. They wanted, and the other thing is, the one thing I failed to mention, I'm not just a kitchen designer. I really pride myself on, I'm a degreed interior designer. So when people hire me, not just for where do I put the refrigerator and that, is also the aesthetics and getting to know them and their aesthetical wants and needs too. Okay, so this is what's referred to as the floor plan. And then also to help them out, we do elevations. Okay, and what an elevation is, you're looking, it's a 2D. Okay, let's go to the kitchen part. You got a 2D area where this is where the sink area is and everything there. You can see the drawers, you can see where the microwave went, raised the ovens for them, did some really nice decorative stuff. Okay, so then that's the process of getting the 2D dimensions. Now, one thing I need to mention with you guys here, it's very, very important to understand this. When you work with the designer, these are called conceptual drawings. That's what you're contracting for, is conceptual drawings. Now, you may look at this and say, well, wait a minute, John, it doesn't look conceptual to me. Look how detailed you are with your dimensions, 11.875 or this or that. But really what happens is once I'm done, the person that's going to be selling you the cabinetry is going to go out and double check the dimensions and going to work with you as far as coming back and then re-measuring and then really making it fit like a glove. So I'm offering conceptual. The next person who's going to supply the cabinetry is going to offer you the work, what's called working drawings. Now, if it's me, I still do it over again. All of a sudden you say, John, I want to hire you to do everything. I still go back and measure a second time to be double check, and then also to get it really and the dimensioning really down. Okay, so that's what then happens with that design part. Now, you may come to me and say, you know what, John, I have trouble visualizing. Can you guide me to be able to visualize what it's going to look like? Okay, so if you bear with me 1 second, I'm going to go and I am going to find the renderings for this job here. Okay, so I'm going to show you. You can have a gentleman or a lady or whatever, a service that's offered where they can come and do colored rendering so you can see the way the kitchen's going to look. Okay, so let me just show you these here. This is a very valuable tool. Look at that. That is not a photograph. And I want you to look closely at this because I'm going to show you the finished project in a second. Okay, that right there is a rendering. I have a kid out of Washington, D.C. that'll do these for us. Look at that. Remember I said the oven's raised up? So you saw it 2D, okay? Did that help you? Was that enough? Or do you want to see it 3D in color so that you can see exactly how that worked? Now, do you remember, how good's your memory? Do you remember going back, okay, when I said that picture I loved? Do you see how I really listened and I really observed? What color was that picture? Red, white, gray. So I took that kitchen off that beautiful picture, or art piece, okay? So that's called a rendering. Now, all well and good. I think this is a good investment. I think it's a very good investment, okay? So then that gets done and everything's picked, and then it comes down to the end of the day, and there's the finished product. Let's see if I can advance this. Okay, I don't know, it's not allowing me to go forward or backwards here, but make it, oh, there we go. But you get the gist of it. So there's the finished product on that. Okay. Are there any questions out there about the design process or anything? Otherwise, you know, we're going to have that webinar next week. Where the heck do I begin for people that are not do-it-yourselfers? Like, what's a good question to ask, you know, the contractors, and how do I get, what do you know, like, here's another thing, like you would never know that we talk about. When you do a project, okay, there's something that's called a release of mechanics liens. So what happens if the contractor, you give them a large deposit and then all of a sudden he doesn't show up, or he's in trouble financially and he doesn't pay his tile man, and the tile man comes and puts a lien on your house? That happens, and it's possible to happen. Or, you know, because the contractor's not paying the trades, then you get slapped with a lien on your house. Well, there's something that's very simple called a release of a mechanics lien. And what that means is that when you give that contractor a check, he's got to sign off, notarize that his trades have been paid, you know, for that check that was given. So they're just little things like that that we'll cover next week. And then we're going to go into the series of starting next year for people that miss things and all that. And we're going to get into other things like countertops and flooring and on and on. So thank you for taking the webinar. If anybody has any questions or anything, they can email me or call me. I can be reached at 216-870-2644. If anybody needs any design help or guidance or anything with the whole project, whatever, you know, always feel free to reach out. And I'd love to guide you through it. Okay, so get out and enjoy the day. And the sun is actually out here now. And we'll look forward to seeing you folks next line up. Thank you. Bye-bye.